Hi guys, welcome to Crosstalk, your local podcast brought to you by Republic Polytechnic Diploma in Mass Communications and Singapore Red Cross. Come and join us in hearing the conversations and perspectives of various Red Cross leaders.
We'll be covering various topics ranging from blood donation to caring for the elderly and even many more. So get yourselves comfortable, maybe grab yourself some drinks and snacks because the conversations we're about to have is gonna be interesting. So stay tuned.
Hi guys, welcome to Crosstalk, your local podcast where we talk to various Red Cross leaders about the social causes they champion. I'm Sylvia.
And I'm Shane.
And today we're going to be talking about disaster relief. So Shane, Singapore quite safe, huh? Would you say that?
Yeah, quite safe.
We don't experience typhoons, tsunamis, earthquakes.
All the countries around us kind of like protect us in a way.
That's true, but we're very privileged in a sense because many other countries, they do experience disasters. So today on our podcast, we have Aaron and Samuel from the Singapore Red Cross International Services. So welcome to the podcast. All right, so can you guys introduce more about yourselves and tell us what you guys do at International Services?
My name is Aaron. I'm a coordinator with the International Services. So I'm functioning as a auxiliary staff or volunteer staff. In my current focus, I think I'm a nurse by profession. But for my IS portfolio or International Services portfolio, I'm looking at managing the disaster surveillance team. We are looking at restoring family links, as well as military and civil liaison function as the focal point. Yep.
Yeah, that's cool. So my name is Samuel. I am the manager with the International Services of the Singapore Red Cross. So my primary role is kind of similar like Aaron's, but maybe a bit more. In two areas. Maybe one is on project management, where we do like projects and programs with our partners overseas. And of course, the other one, we do capacity building projects, which kind of focus more on training programs that we do with our partners. Yeah.
So disaster relief seems like a really daunting topic to many people because of how seriousness the issues are involved in it. So may I just ask, how did you guys approach disaster relief? What made you guys wanted to start doing such a course?
Well, for myself, I think the thought of being able to function and practice my skill sets in the overseas context was the catalyst for which I decided to join the International Services. So at the point of joining the International Services for internship, right after my time in IT College East, I was hoping that I would be able to practice nursing in other countries such as Malaysia or even Indonesia, which I did get a chance eventually thanks to our head of department then, Miss Carrie Chan. Then, of course, along the way, I met Samuel, who was previously an intern with us, who eventually joined as a full-time staff.
So my journey, maybe it's a bit embarrassing to say and a bit awkward. I would say if I look back, you would watch movies, you would watch shows, and then there will always be some movies or shows that just stick with you, that you find memorable. So some people like fashion shows, or some people like a bit more action shows. I have always been attracted to shows that are always set in like the disaster scene. So we look like Blood Diamonds, or maybe the cheesy Descent on the Suns that we watched recently. Yeah. So it's these shows that somewhat have this like evoke some emotions. And I guess I knew that I wanted to be on the ground, closest to the people who really need our support. Was really fortunate to apply to Singapore Red Cross, and really fortunate that the only opening back then was one with the International Services. So I wouldn't say I purposely went into that area. I had an interest and I sort of dropped into that role. So it's a bit awkward, but also how I ended in this position.
I see. So, sorry. So for like the Singapore Red Cross, right, many people associate the Red Cross with blood donations, and not much is known about in the International Services. So would you mind introducing, telling us what exactly does the International Services do?
So do you want me to take it?
I could take the question, I think. Yeah, okay, so I think, like what you mentioned, I do agree that international services in itself, along with the notion of disaster response, is a very niche area. Our marketing campaigns, I think there's a lot of focus on local efforts before we even dabble into overseas relief. So it's important to in our mission to cater to those who are in the most need, those who are stuck in very dire situations. We must also look at our local scene, what needs to be done prior to that. So our area of focus, what you mentioned very correctly, is a lot of blood donation and a lot of other local efforts like community response. We got other initiatives as well, like community first aid events such as First Aiders on Wheels, where they will cycle at the East Coast Park and pick up any casualties and attend to them immediately. So all those are like our other voluntary efforts besides blood donation. So for IS, again, being a niche area, what we focus on is a lot of recovery projects, disaster response, as well as a lot of liaison with various other entities, be it overseas counterparts from other national societies, other Red Cross and Red Crescent entities, as well as other important stakeholders.
So I guess it's just what Aaron mentioned, but maybe using a bit more fancier words. So I guess what he mentioned is really about disaster management and a bit of like diplomacy. So there are two main areas that we talked about. So in terms of diplomacy, like what Aaron mentioned, you really need to have good relationships with people on the ground. They are the one that provides all the support that you need. They are the one who gets you out of trouble. They're the one who wants you to stay away from certain troubles. And it's only possible if you had that strong connection. I mean, even if you think about our normal day to day, like if you are studying, if you are feeling very stressed, why would you entertain a request from a stranger? You have an exam tomorrow. It's at 9 a.m. It's already 12 midnight. A stranger texts you, "Hey, long time no see. Can you please share your notes with me?" You will totally ignore the message. For sure. But let's say if it's your best friend who has been sharing notes with you, you have been talking on a regular basis. 12 midnight, say, "Hey, I'm really panicking right now. Can you please help me?" You would spare no thought to really help that person. And I think it's the same energy that we want to showcase, that the relationship here is very important, that we need to emphasize. Another area is really about disaster management, which is about recovery as well as a bit more capacity building like training programs, which Aaron has already shared more, so I wouldn't go there.
I see.
All right.
So
That's like really cool though. Like I mean like
it is.
like I see like when you think about disaster relief, right? It's like wow, earthquake, then like you got people injured, and then you guys go there. Even though like sometimes right, like sometimes the earthquake not even done yet, right? But then there's already people down there helping all these people out. It's like scary,
And it's very selfless in a sense what you guys do as well, because most of the public, they just assume people go there, you help them out, and then you leave, which is not the case, as we heard from you guys. There's a lot of planning, there's a lot of thought that goes into it. So I want to bring back to what Samuel said earlier on when you said, watching disaster movies brought you in to disaster relief, which is quite dramatic in a sense. And you were right about saying, how some certain scenes, it just stays with you. So I would like to ask, throughout your line of work, were there any memorable experiences that you had?
Memorable, yes. But to really pinpoint one, it's not really something I've seen on the spot, but it's more of what you experience over time. So I guess it goes back all the way to 2018, when there was the floods in Laos. So what happened was the dam collapsed in Atapu province. With the seasonal rain, the floods just came. So I guess we had volunteers going down on the ground as first responders, doing the initial needs assessment and whatnot. Then our role came in slightly later, where we talk about the more long-term needs assessment, like just going to see what projects we can do over there and doing more detailed needs assessments, like what are the issues with water safety, sanitation, education, livelihoods, shelter, the whole range of stuff. And I guess one very memorable thing was when I went to a school. We visited a few schools. And in particular, it was fortunate for that school that there was water supply, where else the nearby schools, as well as some of the living areas, did not have water supply because it just got disrupted by the floods and the landslides. It was a very fortunate thing, I guess, but we were very concerned with water safety because of the landslides, as well as certain open defecation practices and whatnot, which could contaminate the groundwater source. So we did warn them. We left the area. We went back again, I think 2 or 3 months later, to visit the same areas. And what was very fortunate was actually not a good thing, in a sense that when we went back, we heard things like children suffering from diarrhea, water poisoning, and possibly fatalities. So I guess when you hear that kind of things, it just hurts you because you were there before. You question whether you could do certain things or not. But just a reality. And I think a lot of us, including myself back then, were asking like, why did you drink the water when you knew it was unsafe? But then the very simple question came back is, then what else do I drink? Yeah. So it was two choice. One, to not have water, and either the children stay at home and not go to school, or they go to school but they have this like 50% risk of suffering from water poisoning. Even then, we could not ascertain whether it is the source is from the school itself. It could be from another area where they got water poisoning. So it's like a risk versus a guaranteed choice of not going to school. So sometimes it's not just a very easy trade-off of just saying, just don't do something. There's a lot of complications, a lot of complexity on the ground. And that's just something very memorable that, just sticks with me over time.
Wow. And what about you, Aaron?
Well, for me, I think my most memorable experience will be the deployment to Cox's Bazar, I believe the current largest refugee camp in the world. I was deployed there for a healthcare mission, and during which we saw, I think, somewhere upwards of over 1,000 patients at that point of time over a course of 5 days. There was a lot of planning that went into it, definitely, and there was a lot of liaison between various healthcare entities, like their local doctors and nurses who came on board to help us and administer aid to those in need. What was very memorable, I think, was just the sheer sight of how large the camp was. Because while we look at certain images from news articles, or even if you Google map it, there are some images of the area. Being there on the ground and seeing it for yourself is just another thing in itself. Yeah. So on my first day of arrival, I was really taken aback by the living conditions of those refugees, knowing some of their stories, because luckily for us, we had translators with us from the Bangladesh Red Crescent Society. So one of the stories that was shared was that a family just came in to the camp. They didn't have anywhere, there's no fixed place to really just settle in. So they just came in. Prior to that, several hours before, they were in a gunfight. So there were a few of them, there was a crowd coming in. At the point of deployment, right, we decided that we wanted to go with the deployment because there was an influx of about 90,000 refugees at the point of time. So upon knowing this, we went to assist the other national societies or the International Federation for our societies to go and administer assistance. So seeing all those different wounds and conditions, and even the living conditions, not just their physical condition, really just made a very memorable experience, but not in a very particular pleasant way.
That was like really heavy, like the things that you just shared, and like I don't know, like I feel like that's like I look up to you guys a lot. Like this you see so many things go through at all these places, and you still like you feel like you can still take it to go there and help them, and then like, okay, to be very honest with you, the disaster relief things, like there's a lot of people out there that would like think like, for example, if I come across like one of my family members, like my aunties would drop by, like if I told them that I was doing disaster relief, it's like, Abaya, you okay or not? This kind of thing, they'll say stuff like, it's very dangerous, this kind of stuff, or it's like it takes up so much time, or it also takes up you like for you guys, right? I think it takes you up a little bit emotionally. So like what would you have to say about those kind of things?
Well, I think for at least my capacity when I'm being sent on a deployment, there's a lot of preparation that goes into it, and of course that involves conversations with your family members, acknowledging what are the risks involved as well, and of course having faith in your staff and overseas counterparts to ensure that every one of the team returns safely. Other than that, it's also very important, I think, for everyone to draw the line whenever you're giving help, like even if it's overseas, non-overseas, local context as well. It's very important to draw the line and identify what is your capacity to serve those in need, and not over expect yourself or set too high a standard for you to administer that assistance. Yeah.
So mine will be a very funny story. Not really story, but a funny analogy. Or no, experience, yes. A funny experience. So you know how I mentioned about movies earlier just now, right? And all those scenes and fear and the sound effects and whatnot. But it's really not the same in real life. The problem is your parents and your friends, or maybe even yourself, would have the image of what a disaster scene is. But when we go on the ground, it's actually much safer and it's much calmer in that sense. Of course, in the early periods, it will be very hectic, but it's not as bad as what the movies portray. Having said that, I still remember my very first mission when I was telling my family that, I was activated, I think, a few days before. And then they were just saying that, are you sure? What do you need? Nah, let's go to the nearest shopping mall now and let's buy whatever you need. They were panicking. My parents were throwing a fuss, saying no, like it's just a lot of hesitation, a lot of objection in that sense, and I'm saying that it's already decided, like I'm deployed. Yeah, there's nothing much you can do except to just share with them about all the safety measures that has already been taken by the organization. So like I think Aaron already shared some, maybe just add on a bit more is like your insurance, and telling them that everything's already taken care of, or what are the contingency planning, who to call. Sometimes when you are, I still remember in primary 6 or secondary 1, right, when you want to go out, you want to go out with your friends, right, your parents will say, give me a phone number of your friend, your friend's house number, your friend's mother handphone number, your friend's mother father's number, and even worse, right, they do spot check on you, right, so they sometimes call and check. So it's something like that. It never goes away, even for us. So I had to provide a full list of emergency, tell them, what is the protocol if anything happens and whatnot. Even at the airport, I still remember there was a lot of like apprehension, but I went and came back. And after that, subsequent missions, you're like, oh, okay. After a while, they know the process, they know that it's not as dangerous as it is. They just let me go. Even for missions that were a bit more dangerous, they were like, okay, they know that it's no point picking up like a fuss and whatnot, just wish me good luck and go off. So I still remember I was actually deployed to Beijing earlier this year. I was there for 4 months. So even the night before that trip, they were of course saying that I'm praying that your visa will not arrive, or like I hope that you cannot make it, I hope your flights are cancelled, that kind of things. But at the end of the day, it wasn't a big fuss as it was in the first time. So I'll say that for those who are really interested in going into this field, be prepared to meet objections, be prepared to experience some fears among your parents. They are not irrational fears, but it is justified concerns for you, out of their love for you. But just be prepared to just assure them and let them know, like, it's not as bad as it looks like. Yeah.
Wow. So like, okay, I'm just very curious because I'm the type of person that easily cries when I can't do a question on my worksheet. Well, you guys must be so mentally strong. So I really want to know, how do you guys get yourself in that mindset and like mentally prep yourself for things?
That's a good question.
It's a very good question, yes.
How do we get ourselves into the right mindset? I mean, okay, so if we look at it from a standpoint for first-time responder, definitely you have a lot of anxieties about the particular mission or objective. So understanding the whole process and what is the specific work involved, as well as who are your specific stakeholders who will assist you in your task. I think knowing the details of your work, your job scope, I think really helps allay that anxiety, and it really sets me in the right mindset. At least that's for my case. Samuel?
I think definitely similar. I think it all boils down to the word stress. How much stress you can take and anxiety that you can take. I guess both of us, we just, I mean, to be honest, we are all born differently in terms of our ability to cope with stress as well as our ability to respond to stress. I guess we were generally of personalities that are of higher stress threshold. But both of us, I believe that since young, we also trained to handle a large amount of stress. And we build that stress. To be honest, even when I went for my first mission, right, I would not dare say that I did not feel anything. I would not say that I could control my emotions the best. And it's just over time that you build that kind of capacity as well. So two things. One is maybe natural threshold. Second is whether you are willing to really build that stress. And honestly, I've also gone through your phase where I see questions that I just want to cry and break down. Especially, you know, when you go for exam halls, right, and you see long-winded questions, and then you just break down. But then you realize that I don't even understand the question. Then when you read and realize, oh, actually it's not that hard. It's just very long-winded.
Agreed.
So I think in the same way, you know, before we go for certain things, you overthink and just create such anxiety for yourself. But when you break it down, the steps and just do it, right, it's not as hard as it is. Yeah.
Wow.
If I may add on as well, I think it also boils down to what are your identified coping mechanisms. It's important for us to understand ourselves thoroughly before we can administer assistance to other people, because that will keep us in touch with our feelings as well as keep us in touch with our understanding of what are our boundaries as well. So usually that over time will set the right mindset for someone to be an effective responder.
You said something about coping mechanisms and all that, right? Like, what would be your coping mechanisms?
Yeah, you have to share it with us, man.
Like you go through so much stuff. What exactly is this coping mechanism that's so great that managed to help you let go of so much? You know?
There are just that I'm not sure whether we can share because it's a bit unhealthy.
Can share.
Check with my my significant other. Make sure that they are there to really walk me through my own thought process, because sometimes there's so much that goes into your thoughts throughout the day, especially when there's so much happening around you. You just need someone to be with you to process the information and come to terms with it sometimes.
Yeah, so I guess for me it's more like just be very self-aware of your emotions. Sometimes like you just flare up and then you ask yourself, why did I flare up? Or you find yourself like moodless. Why am I moodless? Just be very self-aware and that's, I guess, is the first step. And the unhealthy coping mechanism, which you misunderstood, is things like eating sweet stuff,
food,
drinking bubble tea. I would not recommend that because it's very sweet. It's not good for your health. Yes, definitely PG, but it's not something that we would really. I would really recommend. But to be honest, it's like each to his own. What really makes it, what really sticks for you. Some people, they require more social support. So you need to call someone, talk to someone. So that's one form of support that you can get. Some people are more religious. Prayers, that may help. Meditation may help for some. Yoga may work for others. It doesn't work for me. I cannot do yoga. But yeah, each to his own. But at the end of the day, just know that for certain coping mechanisms, if you are using it too much and it has some like unhealthy side effects, it's something that you should also take note of.
Me and Samuel have the same coping mechanism, when it comes to stress eating. Yeah. What's your favorite food?
You can stress together and so I guess it's really just sweet stuff. Not really something in particular. So like chocolates would be a go-to sometimes. And perhaps bubble tea. You just need something very sweet.
Okay.
So
same here.
Right. So sugar level, right? It's a very good gauge. How stressed am I feeling? Not so stressed 30%. A bit stressed 50%. More very stressed 100%. You get the idea.
Yes, we have that in common. Wow, okay. So now we're gonna move on and talk about essentially youths, right? Like me, because I'll be staring at my television screen or looking at my Twitter feed because, sometimes disasters, they just happen. And just hearing about the news, it makes me feel very anxious. And I always want to find out how I can contribute. So what advice can you give to the general public and to youths like me and Shane, for example, who just, want to make the world a better place and want to do our part to help?
Well, I think for the general audience, which is the members of public or even youth, if they can afford to, we do have public fundraising efforts as well. So all these appeals usually will be posted up on our social media, Facebook, as well as our main website. So these funds will be used for a response catered to that specific incident within that specific country or region. Of course, we are very transparent, I think, with how the finances are managed, are spent. So that is as part of our whole package for ensuring accountability for our expenditure. I think even the youths, a simple maybe $2 or $3 of their pocket money, right, helps. It goes a long way, especially when you talk about ensuring that the overseas communities, those who are affected or victims, have the basic necessities. Like right after the incident happens, usually what are the immediate needs? Usually are like shelter kits or hygiene, food and hygiene. So all these very basic necessities can easily be catered to if, let's say, everyone forks out a little bit of expenditure.
So you're telling me I can forgo a cup of bubble tea to help someone in need?
I think it's a worthy trade-off, but
It's an amazing trade-off.
see that
You will say that? Oh, come on, Samuel, you have to agree with me here.
It's a painful trade-off. I will not comment further, but it's a painful trade-off.
Okay, so apart from donations, when these things happen locally, what are certain maybe there's some skills or things that we should learn or we can learn, right, to help our local community and all that,
Well, so touching on that, I think on a very basic level or bare minimum level, members of public can pick up skills, not even members of public, sorry, even youths can pick up skills such as basic first aid. So these will cover a lot of knowledge about how to treat basic wounds as well as safety at home. So there are certain topics that cover even that cater for the elderly, especially since we have an aging population right now. So we have components that involve fall prevention at home, for example. So these are very relevant skill sets that even I think a lot of youths or the large pool of youths can pick up. And adults, if let's say they were to take it one step further and they want to progress beyond just first aid, they can look at what our Singapore Red Cross Academy has to offer as well, like for example, basic cardiac life support or BCLS for short. Of course, these are skill sets that may not be very relevant to every single industry, but it's always a skill that is good to have in case something were to happen. Other than that, if let's say it's a question about whether I can afford the cost, then of course they can feel free to approach our volunteer department or membership volunteer department to go and discuss further what are the other opportunities to volunteer. Because let's say if you were to volunteer in First Aid on Wheels or other community first aid related activities, then of course we are inclined to provide the platform for them to pick up the skills. So they can attend the course at the cost of providing certain service hours in order to retrieve their certificate. Yeah.
So it's so basically my broke self, you can just go up and sign up and then basically be a volunteer and learn all these skills to help all these people as well.
Yeah, but I think first and foremost you need to really find out which volunteer opportunity is really for you, because there's so many services that Singapore Red Cross has to offer. So even for our Department of International Services, the pool of volunteers that we have are very focused, and I think the fact that they chose to pick up this niche area to volunteer with us, be it to stand by for deployments or be the team that really monitors the situation from the comfort of their office, their workplace or their homes. It really takes a lot of understanding your own expectations as well as what are your interests before you really commit. It really takes a while to really know the volunteer or the person before recommending them a particular portfolio. So usually what I do with my volunteers is I will ask, I'll have a conversation with them over the phone. I'll be maybe 3 minutes, 4 minutes to really talk about what are their past experiences, why they choose to join us. And if that's the case, then what is their motivation? That's the most important part.
There's another way to test also, but I'm the anyhow do things one. He's the more serious one. Okay. So let's say I give you $100.
Okay.
Okay, but you can only donate to something, a particular cause.
Okay.
What will you donate to?
My bank.
I'm the charity.
We will need to have a needs assessment. We'll visit your house to check whether you.
Yeah, my bank account needs charity. Okay, but it's
Singapore Red Cross too.
hint hint.
Yeah.
So basically, okay, is there like any ways that, you know, you think that the youths can contribute to like being more informed, or like helping raise awareness about Red Cross and what they do and all this stuff? Is there like anything that as youths we could do?
So maybe I can take that question. I guess the first thing before you start volunteering, right, is to have a conversation with yourself. Because the kind of volunteers that are the best, from my personal opinion, are not those who are just skilled or with a specialization, but those who are available. Which means, okay, so what does availability means? It's like a very big word. So this means, right, that you have a volunteering opportunity and it starts at 7 p.m. Okay, your exams end at 4 p.m. You are totally brain dead. You cannot focus. What will your choice be? Do you go for the volunteering, or do you cancel last minute and not, and tell them that you just cannot make it? Or maybe something less serious, like, after school or maybe after work. Availability. It's just about being there. Because you can have all the skills, but decide not to turn up for the opportunity, and you are not contributing. So I think you just have this conversation telling yourself that, sometimes no matter how tired you are or no matter how busy you are, just commit yourself and just go for it. So it's always this conversation that you have to start with, because a lot of people go in impulsively saying that, I will volunteer, take, register. Then on the day itself, pull out. Yeah. So that's something that it's recommended lah. Just have a talk with yourself. Say that if I commit for 1 hour a week, then that's all. Don't overcommit yourself. Keep it slow. Start with maybe 1 hour a month or 1 hour a week for new volunteers. And then if you think that you can take on more, then just register. The second way, of course, is go on to social media. Start to like all our Facebook pages, Instagram, TikTok, and whatnot. We are at SG Red Cross, correct? Yes.
SG Red Cross.
So Singapore Red Cross, just search for us on social media, including Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, Telegram, LinkedIn. Yes. We would love to have you as our followers. Please do follow us. Please. Then after which you can also register yourself as a volunteer on our volunteer platform. So you can go to redcross.sg, our website, sign up as a volunteer. That's where you get all the opportunities and whatnot. So to be honest, right, for youths or young people who are volunteers for the first time, you'll never get your interest right. It's the same thing as, your subjects. Some people will just hate their subjects after studying for 1 semester or after 1 class.
Shame.
I regret for 3 years. Oops. But it happens, and I think that's not uncommon. At least you can pull out, subsequently, instead of being stuck for 2 to 3 years like in your particular course, rubbing salt into your wounds. But I would say that it's good because once you volunteer, right, you can have a sense. It's already a practical experience, an in-person experience. And if you like it, you know what is your area of interest. If you don't like it, then it's going to be a big issue. So for example, if Shane, you like youth, you can try volunteering about youth activities. If you don't like it, pull out. Maybe find something else that you might be interested in, and then have a go at it. If you like it, just stay at it. So that's something that's simple. Yeah. And then, of course, for Sylvia, if you like children, you may actually regret your choice.
Oh, no.
Because children, there's also a wide range of children of different backgrounds, and sometimes you think that you may not like them, but actually you do. Or maybe you think that you like this particular group, but you're not suitable. So that also plays a part. But it's just about experiential try and error. I would say that even if you didn't enjoy that particular volunteering opportunity, right, it's still a growing experience. And it's not a waste of time, for sure. Yeah. So yeah, I guess to start off, just first have a conversation with yourself. Be aware of what opportunities are out there. Then of course register and just see and let it take its course. Yeah.
All right.
So I guess that after this session, we're gonna see Shane, we're gonna see Sylvia.
Yes.
In our volunteer management system lah, and then maybe all the friends here, the 6 of you behind, we will have full name list, right? Yeah. So you can go to redcross.sg, sign up as our volunteer, and like our social media page. Yeah.
Wow.
Right.
Amazing. Wow, I can't wait to see Shane, being so actively involved with volunteering at the SRC.
Right.
I were to just top it off, I think really for youth, right, what we are looking at for in terms of characteristics, right, are people who are committed, who are focused, who are able to manage their time very well. Because again, you need to be able to help yourself first before you can help other people. So it would be good or best to be able to have some semblance of stability in your own life first before you try to stabilize other people's lives. Yeah.
It's like you cannot let the blind lead the blind kind of thing.
Exactly.
So thank you, Aaron and Samuel, for today. And this has been Crosstalks, your local podcast in collaboration with the Singapore Red Cross and the Diploma in Mass Communications. We will see you in our next episode. Bye!
Bye-bye. See
Thank you for listening to another episode of Crosstalk. Hope you enjoyed it. Stay tuned for more episodes.